Okay, now we're working on the pedal line. So we put one new sealing washer over the top of the banjo bolt, which is also the pressure sender for the brake light switch, and then that goes through the banjo, and on the underneath, in this case, we're using 2 washers, and that's because this fitting's slightly thinner than the standard one, just to ensure we've got enough thread depth. Okay, now we're hooking up the pedal line to the master cylinder, and first of all we just place the line up through there for the moment, like so. Then we move out the master cylinder, take out this cap that we put in there just temporarily, stop stuff falling down into it. We place the banjo bolt in the master cylinder. So again, like when we undid it, you must be careful to rotate the wire with the fitting so as not to break the wires. Now it's important to make sure that this fitting goes out on an angle that clears everything such as shock absorbers, exhaust systems. So in this case on the Beta, we've got this at approximately 45 degrees out. And then we just tighten it up in this position, and making sure that it doesn't like that rotate, so we put our finger on the other side as we tighten it. Okay, now with the master cylinder screws, I like to just apply a few drops of Loctite on each screw just before you tighten them up. Next we'll hook up the brake light switch, so we just run the wire up there. Okay, now we're just running the pedal line, and all we do is simply follow the same routing that we use for the other line. Now we remove the bleed screw from the slave cylinder, and we remove the plastic sealing cap and screw the line onto the fitting. Then we position the slave cylinder approximately in the correct position, like so. Okay, so we've got the slave roughly in the right position, so then we just nip the line up in that position, and we'll do it, make it nice and tight, and then it's ready for bleeding. We can then remove the cylinder, and we need to place that so that the port is vertical, so that any air wants to come out of this port. Okay, now we're going to remove the reservoir lid off the pedal master cylinder. Before I start bleeding the pedal master cylinder, I will top the fluid level right to the top, try not to overflow it. Okay, now what I do is lift my foot up on the foot peg so that I can press down on the pedal. Okay, I depress the pedal slowly until it's all the way to the bottom, place my finger firmly over the port, and then slowly release the brake pedal. Okay, now we repeat this process, so I'm depressing the pedal until it's all the way to the bottom, place my finger firmly over the port, and then slowly release the brake pedal. And basically you repeat this until you get some fluid flowing out of the port. Okay, now we can see now we're starting to get some fluid and also some air coming out. Okay, and just make sure you keep this reservoir as you're bleeding this topped up. We'll just top that almost up to the top again. Once we've got all the air out of the system, we return the bleed screw, tighten that up nice and firmly, and I'm just slightly depressing holding the brake pedal down at a constant position. When I return that, I'll now release the brake pedal. Okay, now we've got the bleed screw returned. When we depress the brake pedal, we can actually see the piston going out, and that's the piston that actuates the rear brake. What I'm doing here is I'm actuating it a few times, and then I'm going to bring the unit down level so that this bleed screw is the highest point again, and then with my foot just slightly on the brake pedal, I'm just going to crack this bleeder open one more time and see if we get any air out, and I can't see any air that's come out there, so we'll just retighten it nice and firmly. Okay, with the Clake, it's absolutely crucial that you get rid of all the air, otherwise you'll never get the braking performance that you should have. So please be patient when you're bleeding, and always make sure that all the air's out of it. Okay, now as soon as you're happy that all the air's out of the system, we return first of all make sure the fluid level's nice and high, and then we return the reservoir cap with the diaphragm in it. Now this will cause the fluid to overflow, so I'm wrapping this around there to catch most of it, and then we screw that down, and we fill this right to the top in this case. Now, as I've been working, I haven't shown you, but I've removed this Teflon shield, and sometimes this can fall out when people are doing this, so just to show you where it goes into a slot, just like so. Then we return the slave cylinder to the body, and we just clip that in place, and that actually holds the pin that holds the levers in position. There's no E-clip underneath, only an E-clip on the top, and if you want to remove that pin, you simply fold the levers out. That takes off this plastic cover, and then the pin can be pushed up from underneath. Okay, now we're screwing the end housing on for the pedal master cylinder. We start with the 5mm Allen head, and then there's 3 2.5mm Allen head. And the last one goes underneath here. Then lastly, we tighten the top slave bolt nice and firmly, and the slave cylinder's in position. Now we've finished bleeding, we can adjust the adjuster that basically gives you clutch off the brake lever. So we'll bring that in. But one thing you must make sure of is that you've always got some free play. We'll just wind that back until there's just that little bit of free play, and that's all done. Now to finish off, we're just going to show you all the places in which we cable tied the lines to keep them away from the main things, the shock absorber so it doesn't get caught in the springs, away from the exhaust system, to the frame, following up, clearance from the tank so that you can easily remove the tank, then up from there, up to the steering head stem, and around to there so it doesn't catch on the steering. Now it always pays to again double check and put it from lock to lock, and make sure that the cable's not getting snagged anywhere. Okay, now because we've rerouted the clutch line to give us more line, we've just got to re-cable tie all these wires so that they don't rub and move around. And just finally, what I like to do is take the bike for a good ride, you know, say a whole day's ride, and then at the end of it, just inspect all the lines to make sure there's no rubbing, that it's stayed where you've cable tied it, and just check everything out. Now, depending on the bend of the bars and type of bike, if you're fitting bark busters, which I personally think is a good idea to protect the Clake, then sometimes it's necessary to put the spacer kit, which just kicks out the inside bark buster mount, 15mm. Okay, and this bark buster spacer kit's available from our website, and it just the kit includes the spacer and a longer bolt. If you want to fold the levers out, first of all you must remove the shear pin, which we removed right at the start of this procedure, and we need to return this when we're finished. But once this shear pin is out, and you can see that's the section that shears off should it get hit and fold out, then you're free to be able to fold the levers outwards. And what this does is it forces this plastic cover off, and then there's only one E-clip on the shaft, and you can just simply push it up and pull it out from underneath, and that enables you to get the levers out. Now with the levers fold out, you're able to change the cams if you want to retune the Clake. But when you put it back in, there are 3 Teflon shims. One goes to between each lever, so there's one there, and then one top and bottom. And they go in like this. And we've got a bit of brake fluid on here, so while it's out, I want to clean it all up. Now we can return the lever in the body, and what we do is we hold it out, not quite perpendicular. We put it roughly in position so that we can see down the hole, and the aim is to align all of these shims, and to do that I'm going to use our 5mm Allen key and put it up through the bottom. Then with the actual pin we push this down from the top like so, then return the levers and then push back on the plastic cover, and that holds that pin in place. And then lastly we return the shear pin and tighten that with a 4mm Allen key, and we do that up nice and firmly. And then that prevents the levers from being able to be knocked out. But if they are forced out, it will shear that pin.